So, hi to everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Being a Football Agent Inside the Business. And I'm really happy to have two special guests today as well with me. And today's topic, it's a very interesting topic. Our episode number 6 is an actual topic, which is like something is discussed by everyone outside there right now. And so we will talk about the impact of COVID-19 on player contracts. Yeah, we will see what really happens outside there. What are the real impacts? Yeah? So for this topic, I have two special guests with myself. First one is Matthieu Grossin, Rios, from Paris, France. And I really look forward to it, Matthieu, to listen about your experiences in this field. You have players in Europe, like in France, as well in South America and Central America. So I really look forward to it. And Matthieu is the founder of Alinea Sport Management, which is working or based out of South Africa or South America and Europe. And yeah, Matthieu, welcome today, and I look forward to talking with you in a bit. Our second guest is Ingo Haspel. Ingo Haspel from Stuttgart. Ingo Haspel is as well an agent, and Stuttgart, Germany, a great place, by the way. And Ingo is the founder of Ingo Sports Consulting or Sports Management. And Ingo is the Haspel Sports Consulting is looking after many football players in Germany, as well as in Europe, as well as in the MLS. So Ingo is working for such a long time now in this business and well-respected agent from Germany. And I'm really happy to have him so he can tell us what his players are facing right now in this time. So, from Ingo's side, if someone knows André Schürrle, that's his biggest client, and Matthieu's biggest client, the goalkeeper David Ospina, a former Arsenal goalkeeper, everyone knows him, the national team goalkeeper. So they will have to tell us a lot, I think. So I really look forward to them, and welcome again today and sharing with us your knowledge. And I think it will be really interesting today. So I do what I do always. The first thing I do is I go to a presentation and want to do something about a general introduction about COVID-19. So let's go here. So let me know if you both can see the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. So, okay, so let's start. So the first page, we will talk about, 1 second. Oh yeah, there it is, yeah. So the first page, you can see like I put out 4 points here to talk about, and we hear a lot about FIFA guidelines. So we will talk about what are the FIFA guidelines, yeah? We hear a lot right now when there are discussions between clubs and players and agents, or there are FIFA guidelines. So do the clubs actually have to follow them? So we'll talk a little bit about the FIFA guidelines. What are they saying? Secondly, we will talk about the practical situation. So who actually does COVID-19 affect in football? So who really had a problem in this case, yeah? Does the situation differ by each country? So we will talk about different countries and the effect about COVID-19. And on the other side, we will go and talk about the regulatory and legal side. With Matthieu, we have also a fantastic lawyer, French lawyer with us. So is there any legal precedent for the situation? Does international law supersede FIFA law here? So we'll talk a little bit more about the legal side. And the last one, the interesting part is we'll talk about clubs and players. So we will talk here, what is the financial situation of the clubs, right? What rights do have players have? And how are agents involved in this one? So we'll talk like, where are agents here? So our players are getting a cut or a deferral. Are we somewhere there? Or is it a decision taken without us? So we talk more about that. So let's talk about the FIFA guidelines. Yeah, if you talk about the FIFA guidelines, you need to know the first most important thing is the FIFA guidelines, as the word is already saying, they're just guidelines. Yeah, they're not binding regulations. Yeah, that's very important to understand. So FIFA is actually giving something out and saying, here guys, these are our guidelines for the clubs and the players and for the leagues. Have a look on them, and this could help you to solve the problem. That's it. They're not legally binding to anyone. Yeah. Let's go to the second one. The players are still to be paid. something. That's what the guidelines are saying. Yeah, so it shouldn't be like that the clubs are using this situation and saying, we have a huge problem here and we're not paying anything. Yeah, so FIFA guidelines saying the players should be still paid something. Number 3 is clubs are to avoid bankruptcy at all costs. I think that's very interesting, very important to know. Yeah, so I think one of the most important things is what FIFA trying to do is that clubs are not going into bankruptcy. So when this kind of situation happens, that the clubs really has that kind of financial problems, I think then is the time to really think about financial measures and what needs to be done with players, with management, with everyone else. So that's something they want to avoid, that the game can go on. Another thing we'll talk about that as well today is about extension of the contracts, right? What happens with players and their contracts and the transfer window? So the guidelines are telling as well, they're saying the contracts should be extended for the term when the game's going on. Let's say the league goes another 2 months. So the contract should be extended for another 2 months, yeah, for example. And the windows will hopefully open afterwards. So the guidelines helping. These are the FIFA guidelines. As I'm saying again, they're not binding, they're just helpful guidelines. Let's move on. The next one, practical considerations. Yeah, nobody actually knows how long the situation will last. Yeah, we are all in a kind of a situation. We hope that certain leagues will start soon. Ingo will explain us in a little bit about the German league, which will hopefully start next week. And there's a lot of different opinions right now, right? And one is the league has an opinion. The other ones are the clubs telling something. Then you have a broadcaster who's coming and saying, hey guys, we need games to be played in terms of otherwise you have to pay us back. On the other hand, you have a player association in certain countries which telling the players what to do, right? For example, in England, the players association said, no player should accept a cut. Everyone should accept or talk about the deferral. That's, for example, the players association giving out as an information, a guideline or a help for the player. Another one is sponsors, obviously, who are sponsoring the teams. They paid so much money that the games are played, right? They are in the game. But most important, I think, that everyone knows is government and health ministry. Without their consent, nothing can go on. So what's right now going on? Every club is prepared, or every league is preparing a package and saying, this is our package, let's start the league. The government has to see it, has to accept it, and it's going on. So that's kind of where we are. Yeah, and who is involved in the decision-making process right now? I think the most important thing is we have the leagues and then we have the government. So they have to find the solution that the leagues can go on. Let's move on. Regulatory and legal side. So one question we'll discuss, can the club force actually a player to agree a cut? Right? Can a club say, so we agreed everyone gets like 80% cut. So everyone has to sign it. That's the decision of the club. Can this happen? Not very likely, right? It doesn't sound very easy. On the other hand, are there collective consultation going on, right? Do we have a bargaining arrangement? What kind of situation do we have? Are the clubs actually in a really consultation process, which then brings the law inside, the employment law and the employees law, like the whole law in the country? Or are the clubs trying to avoid it by using and finding a consent, so-called voluntary, by the players and take it and say, we haven't never went into the collective consultation process. So therefore we're just happy. The players want this cut, we're taking it. So what's going on behind the scenes? How should it be actually done? We'll talk about that. For in America, for example, there we have the players union. There the players union decide about it and with the league together. And then it's binding for every player in the league. A different situation than in Europe. Not to forget, footballers are employees. I think a lot of times people forget about that. People think footballers are a special profession. Yes, they're footballers, but they're also employees. They have an employment contract with the club. So this one is a personal contract between the player and the club. So any change in this personal contract needs to be done by both sides mutually. Otherwise, you can't change this contract. You can breach it. You can breach the contract, but you can't just say, you know what, I just implement 2 other clauses here, new clauses, which says your salaries get deducted by 20%. You can't do that. In terms of doing this, you need a consent. That's a player's contract. And every player in every club has to do it mutually with the club. So every contract is separate. Even the club and the players agree something. They say, we have an agreement for 20% cut. That means afterwards, still every player singly have to sign this amendment of the contract with the club. Yeah. So whatever they decide together, it's not actually binding legally. Whatever they agree on a chat or whatever, it's not binding legally. So very important. So the next one is what does the national law say, right? We think usually FIFA law is the binding law and that's it, or the contract. But I think important is that every country has also his own law, right? So in France, there's a different employment law than in England, than in Germany. So that these law, every club, every football club in these countries has to respect the law, the employment law in these countries. So it's very important. That's why sometimes you might have different solutions in different countries. Let's move forward. Clubs and players. I mean, that's an interesting one. And easiest way to get the player's consent is often done via. You have, of course, the situation is not easy for anyone, simple. But for players, it's kind of there's a pressure there from the media, there's an emotional pressure, and it's coming to a situation, so the players should do their part, right? Why is no one asking the billionaires should do their part? Yeah, no one is asking that. So the players should do their part. So there's a kind of a pressure for the players from the beginning, and certain people doing it, and other players, imagine in a team of 20 players, 15 agree and 5 not. There's a pressure. And the media says most of them agreed, but certain players haven't. So the pressure is even increasing. So that's what club trying to do, get the majority consent and then put the other ones in this. Yeah, literally. And this is kind of a dangerous area now, you know, because that consent, which is done, emotional pressure, could be from a coach, could be from a sporting director, could be from a director in football, could be from a media guy inside the club, could be from anyone, or could be even used another player. So whenever a club is using someone inside the club to get the consent of a player, at that moment, that person is not anymore the team person. He's not anymore part of the team. He's a part of the club. So the club is actually using someone to get a consent. They want to keep it away, don't want to get close because otherwise certain regulations apply, but they want to get it in a way that they have someone they can influence others. So this is the media pressure, the emotional side, the club situation. So it's not easy for football players to find a solution, especially when they don't have also any legal, any advice, any consultation. So if they don't get that on top and have to say, and have to decide about something, that's not easy. So therefore, the transparency needs to be there in open talk that everyone understands what's going on and not a quick decision, which in the end doesn't help. So secondly, clubs will use, I already said, a representative to keep them at a distance. I explained the situation. As soon as a club getting too close, then it's a different legal situation. That's why they try to use someone to get a consent. Number 3, what are the consequences of non-compliance for both parties? So as a football player, doesn't he have the right to know if he doesn't accept it, what will happen? Someone needs to tell him, right? Someone needs to tell him, if you don't accept, nothing will happen. That's fine, right? At least he needs to know it. If he doesn't know it, he feels in a situation, he has to accept that, even if he feels it's not right. So someone needs to explain it to the players, what happens if they accept it. And the other way around as well, if the club, right? So it needs to be very transparent. Next one, number 4, players have the right to know why is a cut necessary. Yeah, especially if a significant percentage and the length is very long. So it's very normal that someone has to explain why is not a deferral in this situation where the financial outcome is not known 100%. Why is someone using a cut if we don't know if a deferral would help at the moment as a stage 1, and then a stage 2 would be a cut situation where after 2-3 months the parties come together and say, you know what, we tried with the deferral, it helped in the time, but now we need a cut because that's the damage we have. The games couldn't be played, the sponsors are not paying, and so on and so on. Yeah, that's the situation. So the players need to know that before they accept anything. So it can't be just, we're in a crisis, everyone needs to help, get a cut or a deferral. That doesn't work and shouldn't be done that way. Next one, 5. Are agents and lawyers involved in talks and discussions? So that's very interesting now. So a player is getting into a consent without having any legal background, without having any information what he's doing there. Usually done on a WhatsApp chat within the football clubs. All the players are there, so they will talk. In every club you have it. And then they talk with each other and then they decide something. So that decision taken on a long-term change of their contract, yeah, how much are agents and lawyers are involved in that? They're not. Yeah, in most cases, they're not involved. In some cases, they are involved. So again, that differs from club to club, from country to country. I have seen clubs where they send me the contracts and everything up front and tells we need a deferral, we have a problem, and then we talk with the players, explain it, and then we go forward. But I have also situations where the players are not, or the agents or lawyers are not told anything, and they get the consent from the player directly. So this is another thing agents should know. Next one, this is the Premier League situation. What's happened right now so far? Other clubs will probably follow and do something. It depends on their financial situation. It depends what kind of financial loss they have. But at the moment, you can see Southampton, we have a deferral, 10% for 3 months. Sheffield United, we have a deferral, 10% for 6 months. We go on. Aston Villa, deferral, 25% for 4 months. West Ham United, deferral, they say approximately 30% for 3 months. Then you have Watford, again, a deferral, 30%. It's until football starts again, yeah, resumes again. Chelsea couldn't agree on anything so far. The players in the club didn't agree in the end. There were talk about a cut, but it didn't happen. So we don't know what will happen. Arsenal agreed on a cut for 12.5%, 12 months. So that's the Premier League picture you can see from the news, from the media. It's all public. So that you get an idea. Let's move on. Considerations for agents. If you're a football agent, what you should do right now. What do you think about? Yeah, speak with your client. That's very important in this stage. Whatever going on, you should be close and know what's going on. How do they feel about the situation as well, personally? And in the end, it's important, is the player's choice to agree or not to agree. If the player want to agree, he can agree. If he doesn't want to agree, he doesn't agree. But you, as a representative, should explain him everything he should need to know. That's important. Yeah. Next one. Have the players been told anything from the club directly or the coach? Who was actually the guy who was telling the players what to do? Was there any influence? Was there any, for young players especially? For young players, it's in a very difficult situation to say no to anything. If you're young, if you're 18, 17, 19, you're coming breakthrough from the first team, you want to play. You're not saying no to anything, you just do, okay, well done. So it's very difficult to say no, especially if someone in a team, a leader player or a coach asks you, you should do that, right? So be careful. Even if it's a young player, you should protect his rights. So no one can tell them what to do and what not to do. Next one, have they received any documents in relation to deferral or cut? Yeah, is there anything? What kind of document is it? Is it a legal document from the club or is it just a paper where some points are? So very careful. So you need to know what that paper actually means. What they spread around. Is that a legal document or not? Yeah. Are there agents involved in that from the beginning or not? So it's very important that you know that and explain your player. Will the players get any money returned if they are sold? Imagine you agree for a cut and later on you get sold, right? The club says suddenly we don't want you anymore. We want to sell you. You have no space here. You go. So what happens with the money they make from the player? Are they paying them the cut back? 3 months you get a cut. And they say, so if I go, if you sell me, I at least want the money back you took from me, right? It's my right that you make money out of me by selling me. So again, this is something you should think about in the first meeting with the club for your player. Secondly, or another point, are the clubs still planning to do transfers, right? Then you have to think, is it fair to cut your recent players and do big transfers, right? You would think, wait a minute, the club cuts me, but they want to spend so much money on the transfer window. Isn't it in any business in the world, the most important thing to keep first your squad and to keep them on the same level and not to do a cut and then use that cut to make a transfer, do they have to then pay from that transfer? If they say, we want to spend now 50 million on that player, then the players should say maybe, wait a minute. When you do that, you pay first some of the money back to us, what you cut from us. So you have money to spend, right? A very good, no, not a good one, but an argument is coming out always. I hear like from many of my players in all Europe, they come to me and they're saying, yeah, the clubs told us if they do transfers, they will do from a different fund. And then I'm asking them, what kind of different fund a club have? Do they have a Cayman Island account or what? So how do they can have a different fund? So this is the argument they tell usually the players to say, don't worry, the transfers will be done from a different fund. Come on, guys, there is no different fund. Yeah, you should know that. Your players shouldn't get into that. They exactly know, that if they cut, the cut is cut. The management, the income of a club is one stream. They can't say we cut you, but we use a different fund for the transfer. So very careful. So you should know these things. You should ask these things. That's your right as a player and as an agent if you want to help them. So I think that's from my side. I'll stop here. Then I go to you guys, because otherwise I'll talk too much, because it should be just an introduction, but I talk, I think, already too much. But now I give the word to my colleagues, to my friends, and I start with Matthieu. And Matthieu, before we go into COVID-19, I would like to know who you are, what you're doing, and for the guests, how did you end up becoming an agent first? And the second question right away is, how does your day look like now, today, when you work?
Erkut, thank you for inviting me to this conference, and hopefully it's we get to be able to share some insight information for all the audience. Basically, I'm a French Colombian citizenship, so I'm a former French lawyer and a Colombian agent. So that's why I have my first last name, which is French, and second last name is Colombian. Long story short, because it's not the subject of the conference, but my itinerary was basically, I was a lawyer in France. I had bet some, I always liked football, wanted to play in football, wanted to work in football somehow. And I decided to use my dual citizenship and try to knock doors in France, saying that I'm a Colombian specialist in football, and knock doors in Colombia saying I'm a French specialist in football. And I managed to accompany to a couple of tournaments. The Colombian teams were arriving to France, and then so I started to get my first connection with Colombian players. And some people in France started to listen to my advice and liked one player, came with me to Colombia, and that's how I did my first deal after 1 year and so trying. And now I've been working with my agency for 15 years, Alinea Sport Management. And therefore I'm going to talk very quickly about France, because it's a European background, and maybe in South America you'll see different type of situation that you don't really find in Europe. So basically in France you have, to recollect a few elements that Erkut gave, you have, like everywhere, you use labor law to decide what's going to happen, and contractual law in the relationship between the clubs and the players. So the labor law allows all the companies, because clubs are companies with employers, with employees, under certain conditions, like decrease of activity, of incomes, to go without the authorization agreement of the player, to go down right away to 84% net of incomes for the player. So you have a decrease of 16% of the growth of the income of the player without needing the agreement of the player. So some of the clubs did that in France, most of the clubs, and some went to the other possibility, which is the agreement, contractual agreement between player and club. So the union of players and the union of the clubs found an agreement of what would be the ideal agreement between both parties, but it's it's just recommendation. So most of the clubs didn't actually use that recommendation and did their own agreements, negotiating with the clubs and with the players, I mean. And a lot of clubs, find that agreement, and that's basic and very basic with France, because I find it almost less interesting or more common to what Ingo is going to share maybe. And now France is with the Netherlands, the other country, stopping the league for the season. Actually, now a lot of people are saying that maybe it was too early to decide, because they see that about 10 or 12 countries in Europe already train, and now the first country, Germany, already declared that they're going to start again the competition. But let's fly to the other side of the Atlantic and talk a bit about Latin America, where labor law and protection of the employees is less developed and that what you can find in Europe. So usually you don't have unemployment protection or partial unemployment like you can have in France. There is a background, which is that most of the clubs in Latin America, in South America, are financially in great difficulties. So a lot of clubs take advantage of the situation to try to get back on their feet, or at least to cut a lot of sources of spending, which are the salaries and the players in that case. So a lot of clubs, Mexico, no, not so much Mexico, but some in Mexico, in Colombia, in Peru, in Ecuador, are trying to get rid of players, and some of them even go to their goal is not to start football again until 2021, because they calculate that all the salaries they can spare, which would be for them good money. And actually now they think more about that, the financial situation, than going back to football. So very, very superficial, and it's a bit different. You have two main theories in South America. You have the case for the labor law oblige the employers to get an agreement for the labor ministry or from the government if they want to suspend or reduce a salary of the employee. There is some other countries where you don't need the agreement of the ministry, but once the government declares the sanitary emergency, they can just suspend any labor contract with any employee without the agreement of the employee. So in Mexico, that's a case in Mexico, and actually the government until a few days ago actually declared that they don't want to declare the state of emergency, sanitary emergency, and they want the companies to keep paying the salaries and keep paying the employees. So they're trying to protect the employees and therefore the players in that case. But even like that, you have a couple of clubs who sent letters to be signed to the players without telling the agents or the counselors of the players, trying to have the players sign this contract, and usually it's cuts of 70, 80, or even 90% of the salary. Not a deferral, a cut, which is quite unacceptable. Even though you need to understand the situation, it's quite unacceptable. There is some other countries who use a lot the concept of force majeure. Force majeure is a legal concept where you need three conditions to be reunited, to be able to use the concept of force majeure, which is it needs to be an event who's unpredictable, who's irresistible, and external of the actors of the legal situation. So for example, in Colombia, a lot of clubs use the force majeure concept to cut salaries or defer salaries without the agreement of the players. And that raises two questions. Is it really a force majeure? Because usually the contracts are for many years. And of course, the players cannot play now, and there's no professional activity, but how long is it going to last? We don't know, but we're pretty sure it's not going to last 1, 2, or 3 years, which are a lot of long-term contracts, usually pluriannuals. That's one thing. And the second thing is, the second question it raises, if the force majeure is applicable, cannot the player use the force majeure to also get out of his contractual relationship with the club? I'm not saying it's to be done. All cases are different, And I still believe that negotiation between club and players is always the best solution, because if you go to a legal disagreement, you'll go to court. You can lose the case, you can win the case. It's going to be long in any way, and it's not very constructive. So if you can find an agreement in an understanding between both parties, always better. And that's why the force majeure, if you want to apply it to the player, let's say that the force majeure can be applicable to the player, you would be in a very specific situation where to use it. When you want the player to be free agents, in that case, you need to be sure you have a solution for him afterwards. You don't want him to spend the next couple of months, or maybe in South America until January 2021, without having any contracts. And at some point, having 30% of your contract is maybe better than having no contract, no social security, and zero income. I don't want to be too long either, so I'm going to leave it there. Maybe it's probably going to raise some questions, and I'll be more than happy to answer it. And on your last point, Erkut, you mentioned what are the day-to-day during the COVID for an agent. There was part one, which was to be sure that the players were safe, to be sure that the players understood, for some of them, that they were not on holidays, that they need to be healthy. That means with nutrition, that means a period of rest, that means keeping in shape with the club and with the individual work, because you have a lot of individual work to do at home. So to be sure that the players would do that, help them having a routine, and maybe putting them in contact with some coach of the company, that they would have some Zoom or Skype or whatever to have all the work at home and do it with the coach. Then the second wave was all when the players come to you and say, look, that's the document that the club wants me to sign. What shall I do? Is it okay? Is it not okay? So that's the second thing. So you talk with the clubs, because usually the clubs don't call you. They just go straight to the player. And as you said, Erkut, pressure, there's a lot of pressure on the player with the medias, with even the colleagues. So and that's second wave, to have the players understand what's going on, what's fair, because of course, I mean, every player, every club has a different situation. So sometimes you need also to help the club. You're part of the company, and it's a common destiny, and it's actually a common destiny for humanity. With half of the humanity is on lockdown. So we need to take to have him understand that also sometimes. And the third wave is that now you feel that people are starting to see that maybe football is going to start again. And so now there are some clubs who are starting to project themselves into the next season, and start to think and start to talk a bit about transfers, but just it's starting a little bit, more or less. So you need to deal between the three waves, and of course you're also at home, so deal with the kids, deal with the family, and take the most of it.
Thank you, Matthieu, for the oversight and all the information. I think especially South America, it's a very interesting market, and a lot of big countries in football. Also Central America, I think Mexico is a huge country, and it's interesting to see what's going on over there. And I agree with you when you say the best solution is when both parties come together, sit on one table, and really have an understanding for both sides, and then agree on something together, rather than one party is trying to overgo and do quick decision. So that's kind of losing trust for both sides, and that doesn't help. I agree. Let's come over to Germany. Ingo, let's see what Germany is doing. And I mean, you represent a lot of players in Germany. I have some players there, not many as you have. So you know much more than me in Germany, I would say. So what's going on over there? And Ingo, tell us, how did you ended up becoming an agent? That's also very interesting.
At first, hello from Germany to all meeting. The last couple of minutes, I asked myself what happened in my life that I'm sitting in a meeting with two lawyers and in a online meeting in football. So this is the first thing I was asking myself. But now, how I became an agent. Well, I also try to make a long story short. The first word in my life was ball. Probably it will be the last one. I said, I think that you be an agent there, you will one day in a higher league of agents. It's all about passion. You have to love this game, and you have to love players, and you have to watch games till the next morning is coming. So it's all about passion to being an agent, and this at the end brought me to the level where I am now. I played more or less okay football. I played in the 4th division. It was okay. I had talent, but I had no mentality. And mentality is one of the basics to be a very, very good football player. But it's also very important to be a good agent, because you have the attitude you have must be very good to all things in the football business. So then after studying and earning a little in the 4th division, I worked as a salesman in different big companies, for example, Samsung, IBM, Konica Minolta. And I played football till I was in the beginning of the 30s, and then I stopped playing football, and a friend of mine asked me if I would like to work for a company from Netherlands. They are looking for a scout there in the south of Germany. And I said, yeah, I have nothing to do at the weekend. I play not football anymore. Let's do this and watch football. So, and I followed again my passion and watched football. And after a couple of years, I realized that I have probably more talents like my bosses there in different directions. So I decided, or asked them, if I can do more than watching football and more than doing a scout, and asked them if I can do more for them to the club side, and they don't join the idea for me. So I decided to found my own company, and after 1 or 2 years in 2000, after first, of course, I made my license in Germany. That was also an adventure. And after getting my license, I start with my own company, and then I get the first 1, 2, 3 players, and it was very fast that a young boy named André Schürrle passed my way, and it was really a good accident for me, and so we started the career for André, and I'm looking after him since now 12 years, and that brought me in a very, very good situation at all. And I made 10 years, I made the day over from 8 to 4 o'clock. I made my usual job as a salesman, and after 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I start my football job. And so I worked 18 hours a day, a long time, and now I come back. It's passion. And then, yeah, after 10 years, I stopped working as a salesman and start the full-time job in the football business. So is the long story short where I am at the moment.
And Ingo, thank you very much for your personal the journey you had. I can see behind you there are some pictures from, are they from Brazil, Ingo?
Yeah, it's our common journey. It was the day where, or the weeks where we picked up this nice cup in gold. And maybe I can go a little bit more with my cam here so that you see that's me and Mr. Schürrle and the World Cup. And you were sitting next to me, and we was in the same row in the stadium that time. And we celebrate a good party together. I remember
Yeah,
it was much fun there.
Yeah, no, that was great times. I remember that 2014, long time ago. So, Ingo, what's the current situation in Germany, Ingo? Like, what are clubs doing there? What are players doing there? So what's the situation? Do we have deferrals? Do we have cuts? So what's going on in Germany?
Yeah, we have similar situation like you in England. We have deferrals, we have cuts. Sometimes they mix it, first cut and deferral later. Yeah, and it's more or less similar like in England, and maybe similar like in France, and not similar like in South America. We want play. We want to run the business. The clubs want to run the business because they still waiting for a big part of the TV money in Germany, and they get it only if they will play. So, but maybe I come to how the situation is in Germany at all. Well, I think the German clubs and the German football, we have a big privilege because we are able to start playing football next week again without spectators or fans, but we are able to play and try to bring the season to the end. And I think all football minded people in Europe have to cross fingers that it will work in Germany and nothing happens, though there is a chance for the other countries too that they can play again and bring the season to the end in the next couple of weeks. I think this is very, very important for all the other politicians, for all the other government, that we have not a big problem in 2 or 3 weeks in Germany. I think this is very, very important, but it's a privilege. Most of the sports in Germany is not allowed. So yeah, I hope all players realize what this means also for the economic side for themselves and also for the whole economic in the football industry. We have 250,000 people living from football in Germany. They're not only the players who play 11 against 11. There's more companies behind that who have to earn money there and to be to look after the families there. So I hope the football players will do it and the coronavirus went away as soon as possible.
No, that sounds interesting. And I think it's true. Everyone is looking now towards Germany and everyone is expecting that it starts the next week and that will be the first case for everyone and to follow, to say, look, they're doing it. It works out. So I think the governments all over the world will be more easier to give consent, to give the commitment that other leagues can start. And I think that's where everyone is looking now to the Bundesliga for the start next week. So that will be an interesting case for everyone. And Ingo, do we have other players outside Germany? How is their situation?
Yeah, André, for example, was a funny story. Unfortunately, he was injured the last 2 months, and he broke his ankle. And in a training session in Moscow in the beginning of February, and then they decided that he fly back to Germany to his doctor here and make the
rehab
here, yes. And then in that time he get a phone call from Moscow that he have to come to Moscow directly because they will close the borders and he has to come. And so he fly over to Moscow and he's still living there in a hotel, and he was in quarantine there, and he was sitting there 13 days in his hotel room in quarantine alone without family. And after 13 days the national association decided that they have a break, and he flew back after 13 days of quarantine, and now he is in Berlin. Like every player from Moscow who is somewhere in Europe, they fly all home to other countries and are still waiting what happens now.
And is there any decision about the cut? I heard like there's more a national catastrophic, they call it, like that's the similar maybe we have in one South American country or Central American. We were talking to you.
It's similar like in Germany or in England. They had also a cut in April. That was the first decision the team made together with the club, and they have, I think when I remember right, 30%. It's similar like your numbers you showed us. And I've heard now that they are now discussing again what they are doing with the current month, and they are in a correspondence here what they want to do.
Okay, I mean, one thing for everyone is interesting, I think, to see with the transfer windows what will happen, right? So what's the situation? And we are hearing like there might be some change in future, that the transfer windows will all over the world kind of same. I don't know if you heard about that they're trying now to bring more countries into the same windows, so that we don't have different windows in different countries, or like 2 windows, one in summer, one in winter, like 1 month and 3 months. And on the same time, like in South America would be, for example, or Central America would be also in Europe. What do you guys think about that? And how does this affect right now your work as an agent? Do you have problems like with your players? Are they calling you and saying, hey, what will happen with me? Could you find me a club? And then, I mean, we have all the same problem, because wherever we call right now, the answer is, we don't know. Like, we have to see, wait a little bit longer. We don't know the financial impact, and we have to give that message to our players and say, we don't know. Like, I mean, it's not easy right now to do next move, next steps for your players if there are transfers coming up. So how do you deal with the situation? And do you think we will have one window for all the world?
If I add on something on top of what you mentioned, which is the traveling, the logistic, maybe with the players are not going to be able to change country because of, in my case, they're all South American, well, they're mostly South Americans. So are they going to be able to fly to Europe, for example? I have players who are in Europe, so now they're on holidays because they know they have a break for 1 month, but they cannot fly back to Colombia. There are no planes, basically. So there are some planes who fly every 2, 3, 4 weeks, depending, and the list is made by the Colombian embassy. So let's say they can fly back to Colombia. Are they going to be able to come back to Europe to respect the contract, to go to a different club? So that's the other thing, also the other issue that there will be.
Yeah, Ingo, what do you think about the windows? What are you doing now? You have probably already have all your deals. I know you are Schwäbisch from, the Schwäbisch area in Germany. This is like where they really take care of the money, we say. They save a lot of money and then they build a house. And actually, I actually been in his new house. He had to show me. He said, come, I built it here while I was in Stuttgart. So Ingo, you already probably, the deals must be done, huh? So the German efficiency, is it even there? You have everything done?
Not really. I would be happy it would be like you described, but it isn't. No, how is it in Germany? It's the same. Nobody can say you something. Of course, I have 2, 3 players where I get also requests in December and in January because they are end of contract and the club's asking, hey, what's going on there? But nobody, or more or less nobody, want to be concrete now because they all wait that they play first, that they get the TV money first. And then if they have this money, then maybe they are able to plan the future. At the moment, everybody is saying, yeah, wait 2, 3 weeks. And yeah, I think the window will be the same window at the whole world. A transfer market with different windows in every country. We have already different windows, but windows in every country, for example, in Europe, in France, this, in England, that window, or in Russia, that window, in Germany, makes the TV, makes the window crazy. So I think the FIFA will regulate, or the countries will find a common window frame for it, I think, yeah.
And it would make sense because you see in Europe, I mean, you have Italy, England, Germany, and France. I think it's like Germany. You have 3 different deadlines. So you see strategies of clubs playing with the deadlines in the other countries. So you wait until the last day of the deadline in England before accepting to talk when you're a French club before selling to another club, because you say, oh, so when the deadline is over in England, so nobody bought my player for a higher price in England, I'll try to go with plan B, plan C, maybe in Germany, in Italy, or whatever. You see a lot of things like that. In South America, you see a lot, the transfer window starts more or less 1 month before Europe. So, so you have the Mexicans for the Mexican league who managed to get interesting Colombian players before they can get to Europe, but just because they're allowed to transfer players before. So it would make sense to have a worldwide transfer window aligned between all the countries, I believe. And you see, and you even hear in France a lot of people starting to say now, the former president of the league, or who's starting to even say that a championship from January to December would even be a solution, and not go from July to June.
Okay. It's an interesting question now. Who's benefiting from this situation most? Which clubs, or not clubs, or which leagues, or will there be clubs in certain leagues, or you don't have to name any club, obviously, but who will benefit from this? Who will get the most? Who's now the smart ones to keep quiet, just watching it, and then when the window is open, attack in a way that they will actually maybe make profit out of that? Because I think the market will change. I don't know if you share the same opinion. I don't think anymore that huge payments for transfers will be done. Maybe for certain players on the top, they will remain top. You can't change it. But there's a huge middle where a lot of players are paid a lot of money or paid a lot of transfer fees. I think that will shrink, and the bottom will grow, but the top will. So I'm just thinking, a club who was actually thinking to pay 100 million transfer fee for a player this summer, do you think maybe he gets the same player for 40 million now, or 30 million, or 50 million? So who's in a good situation? Who will benefit?
I think what you're saying was already happening, that you already had the top players. Clubs were spending even every season, they would spend more money on the top players. Then you would have a gap between the top players and the other second category of economy of transfers, and then third, fourth, and fifth. But I think the winners are going to be the clubs who didn't spend the money they didn't receive yet. Meaning that Ingo, can you remind us where you're from? I couldn't take the name.
Which one?
Where are you from again?
From Stuttgart, near Stuttgart.
Germany.
Okay, so the people who manage well the money like you did to build your house, the clubs who have the saving and the money to spend, I think the clubs who are going to be able to pay quickly the transfers are going to benefit a lot from the transfer window, because you're going to have a lot of clubs who are going to ask for, okay, I agree to sell my player for a lower price, let's say, but I want the money faster. So maybe this could be one of the categories of the winners, I would say.
Well, I would say the big problems will have clubs who have only 1 more year contract, and they have to sell young and very good players, because they came now in pressure. If we take an example, if Harvard in Leverkusen has a contract to 2021 and will not extend, and you have to sell him this year, you will lose 30, 40, 50 million if you have to sell him. If you don't have to sell him, you wait, because the market will be definitely decrease in transfer fees in summer this year, definitely. Alone from the emotional side, for the people in the world who have other problems than big transfers in the football business.
Yeah, I can agree with you both. And I think the clubs who actually have managed in the past few years, obviously, to create a cash reserve, to have savings, as you said, Matthieu, and who have balanced their income stream as a club, who have not just played the one card, which is TV rights and TV income, which is also especially commercial income, sponsorship income over a long term. So the clubs which will have the most sponsorship deals all over the world, who were able to create that and grow it. So I think they will be in a huge advantage because they're not much very bound on the TV rights. Even the TV rights probably will be paid in certain countries and not in every. But I think the clubs who have many more income streams, and especially the marketing and the commercial side, they will come out in different countries as the winners. And especially if you have also ownerships who are interested in also putting money in. And I think the financial fair play rules, which we have right now, will probably change as well, that clubs will be able to make more debt than they should do actually right now. So if you are able to do a debt of 20 million, for example, you might be able to do a debt of 50, 70, whatever. So I think the UEFA will also adjust the financial fair play rules for clubs who will say, look, we have to, we might spend, we need to borrow money from here and there to be able to run the business. So I think that will be given impact on that side. And also, like we haven't talked about, or we are saying that the clubs have to do a deferral or a cut. What are the management and the ownership is doing? Are the ownership is doing as well a cut or a deferral, or what is it the same expectation? And should the players know what is that exactly that the ownership is giving? Is it just a loan they're putting into the club and saying, we inject here 50 million, but after profit we're taking out again? Or do the players need to know that they say, okay, we will not take any profit, no shareholders, nothing. There won't be any profit taking out for the next 3 years. Or once there's profit made, with that profit, we might pay you the cut back, right? So we're not taking money out actually. You help us now with the cut. We help you later to make you a part of the profit. Because when the clubs do profit, they're not giving a part of that to the players, right? So if they do a loss, now the players have to come into the game and save them. So what do you think about that? Do the club should play a bigger role, especially in countries where the ownership is private? It's like a company. But in certain countries, like in Germany, we have the 50+1 rule. In my opinion, it will change probably now after this, especially. I don't, maybe Ingo, you don't agree on that. I think more clubs will be open up. I think they will leave it to the clubs to decide. I think the biggest problem, in my opinion, is if a club wants to do it, they can do it. But if, of course, like a club like Bayern Munich has Audi, Allianz, and Adidas as shareholders, so they don't need to look for a foreign shareholder or foreign investment or even foreign investment from Germany. So, what do you guys think on that? On that part?
Well, it's at the end. Well, you're right on the sense of what's happening to the players should be kind of a policy for the entire company. So you ask, even though if you take the concept of players out, I mean, if you ask a certain category of your employees of the company to have a deferral or a cut, I mean, I would say it's by transparency would be in fairness for them to know that maybe they're not the only ones working on for the survival of the company. Now, if you feel that, or if your policy is to have the players to take advantage of the situation to have the cut or deferral on the players, in that case you have a lot of clubs who don't share any or communicate anything, who don't share any information on what's happening with the top order, with the president or CEO or whatever, or the owners, or what's all the different situations you mentioned. So at the end, it's how you want to deal with the situation and which atmosphere you want to have in your company. Mm-hmm. But I just mentioned something. There is one president of one club. I won't say the country because it would narrow the information, but actually said that bankruptcy of his club now is not because of coronavirus, not because of lack of TV rights, not because of lack of sponsorships. He actually said on national media it was because of the agents. Yeah, because he said, I have so many high contracts that I'm going into bankruptcy. And these high contracts is because the players are badly counseled by the agents. And so let's get rid of the agents. So there are lower contracts, and therefore the economy of the club and of football will change. So it depends how you want to deal with the situation.
That's a very interesting point, Matthieu. I haven't mentioned it before, but that's what I heard from a lot of places all over the world, and some clubs, they're using this situation of coronavirus to they have a mismanagement over years, and Corona comes rightly on the right time to say, we have to cut now here 80% of the salary. I mean, my friend, you didn't run this club very nicely for the last 4 years, 3 years, and this is a great gift for them to use it actually. So therefore, it's even need to be more transparency that the players really understand why they're getting a cut. So that comes to my second point actually. So if the players right now in a football club accepting a deferral or a cut, what happens to a player who will join in summer this club? Will he get also a cut, 10% of his salary, and join the squad who have in a squad in a cut for 12 months? Will that player also I give my part and 20% deferral or 30% cut over 12 months, whatever I negotiate? So how will that work? How will be the other players feel who have to give over 1 year a part of the salary to contribute, and then there's another player or 3 players coming or 5, and they're getting even more salary and they're not getting any cut? What do you think about that?
Ingo.
Yeah. Well, what shall I say? If my player will not do that. That's as you mentioned, I'm from Swabian, and it's not possible with my players to handle this in that way.
Yeah, so they will not accept a cut right away when they start a new contract in a club where they other players.
No, but you can also say that you mentioned, and I kind of agree with that, there will be a new economy of football, but I think it's going to be for a short time.
Yeah.
In that short time, we're going to have the next transfer window. So therefore, the future negotiation, normally, if you're a healthy club, or if you think on a short term, mid term, and long term, you should deal with different numbers on your negotiation. Of course, you will have a lot of clubs who still didn't understand what's happening, or a lot of clubs are still going to spend the money they didn't get from TV rights, so they think they're going to get next season on TV rights. So you'll have all kind of situations. But basically, if we want to be optimistic, and let's think that everything's going to be more healthy afterwards, at least for some time, I guess the new contracts should be more balanced, and therefore there won't be any cuts, of course, but should more or less integrate an unsaid cut into the new numbers. I don't know. We'll see.
Okay. I mean,
from my point of view, I see no chance that the player and I can only speak from my company, move to a new club and starting with a cut or the deferral his contract. That's not possible for me, because what I learned in the last 20 years in the business, you will get no thank you from a club after you did this in 5 months or in 8 months, and if you are end of contract, nobody offer you a new contract because you made a cut couple of years ago and support the player when he was injured or when he is not the right person on his position anymore. He will leave the club for sure. So I don't see that a cut. I don't believe a deferral. We can talk if it's about a couple of months and they get the money back. Well, there we can discuss to help them in a difficult situation. But a cut in a new club, never with me. I hope yes, hear me now.
No, I agree with you. What I'm saying is that instead of having a club offering you 100, maybe they're going to offer 90, and therefore what I call the unsaid cut is the gap of 10 between 100 and 90, and so you won't have a cut. But that's what I'm saying. But I agree with you. The players is almost never the good guys in any club. The players and agents, we're always the bad guys. When there's something to solve, let's go to this.
We are very bad guys.
Ingo is thinking about his own commission. If there's a cut, so he will be cut on his side. Ingo, so we need to. Are you okay, Ingo?
I was just looking to my door.
Okay.
Well, actually, that's one point. Maybe another topic, another program, another episode. But the cut of the players, the cut of the commissions.
Yes.
starting coronavirus, I didn't get paid one peso that was from any of the clubs around the world.
Yes, definitely. I mean, this is another topic. It will affect definitely as well agents as well in their work and in the income. If the players are not earning that much money anymore, players won't be earned. But for the agents, I mean, we are all awaiting the new FIFA regulations to be announced towards end of this year or in autumn. So which will be applied for all of us next year summer onwards, I think. And so as you know, there are talks about 3% for agents as a cut. So Ingo is already want to jump on me. Ingo, tell me what's going on.
I was at the FIFA at the 5th of February and joined the meeting where the agents had there from different countries, and well, they can offer me 3%, 5%. I'm an agent 20 years. I will always find a way that I get my money I want.
That's a very straightforward view of Ingo.
Oh, and no, but honestly, if you go to the 3%, I mean, without getting your money or not getting your money, but that means that you need to have top players and with top incomes to be able to live with a 3%, because you need to travel. You have a lot of expenses. So you have players on minimum wage. Why are you going to live with a couple of pennies and buying, to do a good service for the players, to go see him, to counsel him, to accompany him? And I mean, at some point you need to live out of your work also.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think a tiered system would be, if they want to be doing, I mean, especially for younger agents or agents who are joining the business, the cut shouldn't be like 3, it should be like 10 on them. But if you're earning 20 million or whatever on a deal, you can think about a cut. But I think a cut doesn't make sense. 3% for everyone same. I'm thinking about the young agent who just have a play in the second Bundesliga in Germany and tries to survive. I mean, the cost he will have for traveling and doing everything, that won't be enough to look after 1-2 players. So, I mean, you're cutting actually out with that regulation, new agents. You actually create a more cartel of certain agents which are already there, which are already controlling the market. So you make them stronger actually by actually trying to save something, you actually make it worse. So that's very important. In my personal opinion, there must be a tiered system. I know that might be more difficult for FIFA to run it in a tiered system, but it's more possible then for people to join the business. And that's important, that educated agents or lawyers, whatever, join this business so it gets better as well. And I think the clubs could just save money a little bit if they're not putting 3 agents on the club side in the deal and just put 1. So it will be already saved a lot, and they don't need to cut on the player side. So that would already save a lot. I think the message has approached and understood by the people. Yeah, I think I don't want to get too much into the commission part. That's not our topic. I think we did a good talk today about the COVID-19 effects about contracts. I think it was very interesting for myself and hopefully for you as well to get an understanding globally what's going on in this market for our players, which we represent, which we need to represent in the best way. So our job is like, if we have football players, my job is I need to get the best out for my client and you too. So therefore, our goal is to advise them in the best way. And for us, the most important thing is today I can take out from this great conversation, the best solution, Matthieu, you already said it, is a transparency in both parties together. Yeah, that both parties sit on one table and discuss and explain in every detail, why do you need a deferral and why do you need a cut? And I think there's no player outside in the world who will not accept if he sees that his own club is suffering financially, and he will help. And we are also there to help and tell the player to contribute to that situation. So I think there's a misconception that agents and lawyers who represent the players will actually damage it and will tell them not to. That's not true. It's more, I think, it's more about transparency. It's more being open. And I always said, in a unknown situation, the best thing is first to do a deferral. When you have a clarity, when you have everything clear and you know what your financial loss is, then you sit together and discuss. Is the loss 100 million? You say the ownership, the management, the players, whatever, spread it and everyone takes a cut to have the club running, but not in a way where no one is understanding what's going on, where there's no transparency, where no one can really know, and people has to agree on a long-term change of their contract, of their personal contract, because of pressure and of an emotional situation. I think that's what I'm taking out. And I give you the last word about your thoughts. what will happen, what do you think, what is expecting us as agents, what we should do, and what you want to give other agents outside today listening to us, what they should do and what they should be prepared for.
Well, I agree with you on something, and maybe that would be my last words. But at the end, let's not forget that we have a common goal: clubs, players, and agent lawyers. We want football to come back, and we want the clubs to survive and the players to survive. So we want the game back to us, and we all watch on Bundesliga what's happening. Even the president of Colombia said, let's watch what's happening in Europe and now in Germany before having football back in Colombia. So please, for my Colombian family, Bundesliga, work out.
Well, we will see what happens. I believe that the German association made really a good job. They are really good prepared for the situation. They had a good concept, a hygiene concept, what is really, really good. And I hope that they will make all games the next 6 weeks, and the other countries can us follow. And I hope that for all the people in the world, and this is my last word, that the coronavirus fly away as fast as possible and is in a couple of weeks, probably not. We will live a couple of months with it, but in a couple of months, he is history. The dangers of the virus is history, and we can help the people in the world, and then the football will run again. There, I am sure. That's my last word, and in my last word includes one goodbye and have a nice evening.
Thank you. Again, thanks a lot for both of you, Matthieu and from France, and Ingo from Germany. On behalf of me and my team in the back, like Jack and Charlie and all the others who helped today, I want to say a big thank you. And I think we learned a lot and it was very interesting. Thanks for your time to do that. I know your family at home. We are all at the same time family home. So we are spending a lot of time with the family. And I know it's not easy when you have kids around. We talked before about that. And yeah, it was fantastic. Thanks a lot. And the most important thing, transparency for both sides. I think we can agree on that. And we hope that the Bundesliga starts and we all look forward to watch football again, finally, to open the TV and finally watch football. So with that, I wish you a good evening and a great time in the next few days, and hopefully keep safe and healthy. And next week we'll come with another episode. Thank you guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.